Exposed, spine-chilling deep woods terrors revealed unexplained secrets from the cursed forest. Sarah looked out at the forest, and a cold shiver ran down her spine. The trees stood like towering sentinels, their twisted branches clawing at the sky. Locals whispered about the cursed forest, where shadows danced and pets vanished, but she never thought much of it until now. The porch lights flickered, casting eerie shapes on the ground, and all she wanted was to feel safe in her own home. Thunder rumbled ominously in the distance, and Sarah felt a sense of dread creep into her chest. It wasn't just the storm. Ever since her neighbors started to disappear without a trace, unease gripped Maplewood. The sheriff, once a trusted figure, now carried an aura of mistrust. Something sinister lurked behind the facade of their small town, and when she caught dark figures flitting between the trees, panic clawed at her sanity. When night fell, Sarah often sat at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee, her heart racing. She worried about her kids, Jason and Lily, tucked into their beds, blissfully unaware of the dangers lurking outside. It felt as if the forest itself breathed around her a heavy, suffocating presence. She tried to shake it off, but the feeling wouldn't leave her. She pulled out her laptop and began researching the town's dark past. The more she read, the more her anxiety escalated, tales of missing people and foreboding whispers echoing in her mind. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just then, Jason's laughter faded, leaving only an uncomfortable silence. Sarah's heart pounded as she bolted to their room, but the beds were empty. Panic surged through her veins. Jason! Lily! She screamed, but only her voice echoed back. Frantic, she stumbled into the living room, her breath hitching as the realization washed over her. They were gone. Driven by sheer desperation, she ventured into the woods, a weak flashlight trembling in her hand. Shadows loomed and flickered, as if they were alive. Each step into the dark felt like walking into a trap, an ominous whisper urging her to turn back. The deeper she went, the more the air thickened, almost suffocating her spirit. What had once been a place of wonder now felt like a hunter's lair. Suddenly, she stumbled into a clearing. The trees twisted grotesquely, roots writhed like serpents beneath the earth. Her breath caught as she noticed a figure standing eerily still, the town sheriff, bathed in an unsettling glow. He whispered to the darkness, and horror seized her. The truth clawed at her mind, the forest craved more souls. As she turned to flee, a blood-curdling scream shattered the night, tearing through the air like a knife. It was a sound she recognized all too well, echoing from the hearts of every terrified parent in Maplewood. Sarah stood frozen, heart racing, terror radiating through her body. She knew the forest wasn't waiting, it was hunting. And she was the next target. What did the sheriff truly know? What other secrets lay hidden within the cursed woods? The trees closed in around Sarah like a noose. Panic surged through her as the scream echoed again, kinking her stomach into tight knots. She could hear the rustling of leaves, feel the weight of the shadows pressing closer. Just moments ago, she believed the safety of her home was enough. Now, she felt the earth pulling beneath her feet, whispering malevolent promises. Jason! Lily! She screamed, her voice drowning in the oppressive darkness. The only response was silence, a silence so thick it felt alive, almost mocking her desperation. Gritting her teeth, she couldn't just stand here. Not with them out there. Not with that deafening scream clawing at her memory. Sarah stumbled back, the flashlight beam flickering as another bolt of lightning split the sky. The sheriff stood unmoving, still whispering into the void. Disgust surged inside her. Was he a guardian or a puppet? What was his role in this nightmare? That thought festered in her mind as she sprinted deeper into the woods, ducking underneath low-hanging branches and brambles. The underbrush cracked loudly under her feet, breaking the eerie stillness. Her breath came in jagged gasps. The forest felt alive, shifting, surrounding her with unseen watchers. Something was watching her, waiting. Each flicker of light illuminated shapes she dared not investigate. Shadows twisted and danced, but as they did, flashes of Jason and Lily's faces haunted her, their innocent laughter turning into cries for help. A chilling breeze swept through the clearing, carrying with it a low, guttural growl that raised the hair on her arms. She skidded to a stop, heart pounding madly. The flashlight sputtered, almost dying, and she trembled as the growl deepened, vibrating through the ground beneath her. With a shaky hand, she turned the light back on, aiming it into the darkness. It barely cut through the thick haze. Then, she saw it. Just a few feet away, a pair of eyes glowed in the darkness, liquid black, wide, and predatory. Her heart plummeted as the creature stepped forward, revealing long, sharp claws and limbs covered in dark matted fur. It moved silently, like a shadow creeping closer, its eyes locked onto her, hungry. Backing up, Sarah felt a tree trunk press against her back. Panic reared up in her throat, she was trapped. A low snarl escaped the creature's lips, and she could see it breathing, the sharp teeth glinting in the minimal light. "Help! Someone, please!" she shouted, desperation lacing her words. But no help came, nothing but the rasping breath of the creature as it moved in closer. Her mind screamed at her to run, but her feet stayed put, paralyzed by fear. All she could do was inch away, gasping for any ounce of courage left within her. Suddenly, a burst of sound broke the tension, another scream, this one clearer, more immediate. It was Jason, and he was close. "Mom!" he cried. "Help!" Her instincts kicked in. Ignoring the creature, she pivoted and charged into the darkness, calling for her son. Each step was a battle against her own dread. The branches lashed at her, the forest trying to reclaim her. "Jason! Where are you?" she shouted, panic rapidly growing. The horrid growl behind her faded but was quickly replaced by an echo of laughter, dark, mocking. It wasn't just the forest now. Something much more insidious stirred, something that delighted in her fear. Just ahead, amid the trees, she spotted a flicker of pale skin and tousled hair. It had to be him. Rushing towards the figure, fatigue spilled into her heavy limbs, but she pressed on. With every desperate step, a chilling realization filled her with dread. What was waiting just beyond the horizon, in the depths of the cursed woods? Would she find her children, or would she become just another whisper lost among the trees? The light of the flashlight flickered weakly, and as darkness clawed at her heels, an unnerving question lingered in her mind: was she too late? Branches whipped against Sarah's face as she lunged deeper into the darkness, her heart thundering like a drumbeat in her chest. Every scream echoed in her ears, drumming a rhythm of dread and urgency. "Jason! Lily!" She called again, her voice cracking under the strain, desperation clawing at her throat like the creature moments before. A sudden rustle behind her made her stomach flip. She couldn't stop. She wouldn't let fear dictate her steps, not when her children needed her. But the shadows thickened, twisting into forms that mocked her with the absence of light. Was that laughter she heard? A wind-laced cackle that sent chills down her spine? "Mom!" Another terrified voice cut through the chaos. This time it was Lily. "Where are you?" Adrenaline surged, propelling her forward, branches tearing at her clothes like skeletal hands. The flashlight flickered ominously, casting long shadows that twisted and squirmed as though alive. She gasped. The woods felt cold, unnaturally so, seeping into her bones. A clearing loomed ahead, light breaking through the treetops. Sarah raced toward it, praying it would show her some sign of her children. But as she burst through the trees, breathless and wide-eyed, what lay before her turned her stomach into ice. The ground was littered with sinister remnants, torn fabric, twisted roots that looked like arms reaching for the sky, and an unsettling silence. No laughter. No screams. Everything felt creepily still. Jason. Lily. She called again, her voice quaking with new fear. The wind stopped, the world seemed to still, amplifying her panic. She was utterly, horrifyingly alone in the vast emptiness of the clearing. Her flashlight wavered, illuminating the ground at her feet. Tempted to drop it and run, she clutched it harder, realizing too late that running back into the trees might bring her face to face with nightmares waiting to claim her. The whisper of a breeze caressed her cheek, and with it came a dreadful awareness of being watched. She turned slowly, her breath hitching. Behind her stood the sheriff, his face twisted with an expression she couldn't read. "Where are my kids?" she demanded, fear sharpening her voice. He didn't respond. Instead, he was staring beyond her, eyes wide, his mouth moving but soundless. Suddenly, she felt a tremor in the ground beneath her. The trees sighed like they were about to speak, and there it was again, a guttural growl that seeped through the air like poison. It surrounded her, thrumming in her ears and igniting the instinct to flee. "Run!" the sheriff finally shouted, snapping her from the paralysis of fear. Without a second thought, Sarah bolted back into the woods, leaves crunching underfoot as the urgent growl deepened behind her. Instinct screamed at her to find a path that led away from that sound, away from the darkness that seeped into her mind alongside the fear. As she ran, her mind raced. She could conjure no image of safety, only memories of laughter and warmth that now felt impossibly far away. The laughter had twisted too, becoming taunts within the forest, a chorus of her children's voices, mocking and cold. Then, just ahead, she saw them. Pale figures, small and fragile, standing beneath twisted branches. It was Jason and Lily, but they were not the same. Their eyes were wide, reflecting the darkness. Their expressions blank, devoid of fear, just staring at her, unmoving. "Mom!" they whispered in unison, voices low and haunting. For a moment, Sarah froze, heart stopping as realization swept over her. Something was terribly wrong. She stepped forward, but they didn't move. Was this an illusion? Or something even worse? Before she could reach them, something grabbed her ankle from the darkness, a cold, clammy hand. She turned, but the shadows had come alive, consuming her scream as panic enveloped her like a shroud. And then, in the distance, she heard a terrible roar, a warning, or a summons. Was it too late to save her family? Darkness closed in, dragging her down toward a horror she could barely comprehend. What awaited her in that suffocating blackness? The shadows tightened around Sarah, wrapping her in a cold embrace. The grip on her ankle tightened like a vice, pulling her toward the earth. Panic raced through her veins as she clawed at the ground, fingers digging into the damp soil. She twisted, desperate to free herself. "Jason! Lily!" she screamed, the sound tearing from her throat in a raw plead. But her voice echoed back, distorted and mocking, as if the forest itself was laughing at her despair. With one last surge, she kicked free and scrambled to her feet. The figures of her children stood just beyond her reach, still and silent. Their eyes were dark like bottomless pits, reflecting nothing but the shadow around them. "Please," she begged, heart pounding wildly. "Come to me." For a heartbeat, it seemed like they might move, but then they froze again, grounded by an unseen force. Beneath the growls and whispers, something stirred in the underbrush. The sheriff stood just off to the side, expression twisted in fear as he scanned the woods. His breath came in shallow gasps. The forest around them felt alive, the trees creaking and bending as if responding to some unseen presence. "Stay back!" he warned, voice shaking. A flash of movement caught Sarah's eye. Something slinked between the trees, a long, shadowy figure, grotesquely elongated. At that moment, she understood, it wasn't just the dark depths of the forest that awaited them. It was also what lurked within it. The growl erupted again, rumbling low and menacing, vibrating through her chest. The air thickened, an oppressive pressure building as the shadows deepened. "Mom." Jason's voice cracked, trembling as he took a half-step forward. "Help us, don't move." Sarah shouted, a surge of terror propelling her forward despite her instincts screaming to flee. She lunged toward her children, but the ground trembled again, and the sheriff grabbed her arm just in time. His grip was iron, holding her back. "It's a trap. You can't," but it was too late. From the shadowed depths, the figure emerged, monstrous and grotesque. Its eyes glowed like embers, piercing the thick darkness, and a mouth split wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth. The beast was horrific, any humanity it once possessed long since twisted away by the forest's magic or curse. "Let them go." Sarah screamed, panic surging again as she felt a whirlwind of emotions: fear, rage, desperation rushing through her. She fought against the sheriff's grip, but he held tight, his face pale. "Sarah!" he yelled, urgency seeping into his voice. "We need to run." But inside her, a different fierceness ignited. She wouldn't leave without her children. Her heart raced as she pointed at the beast. "I'll save them. I can't leave them." The sheriff, eyes locked on the creature, muttered, "No one comes back from the forest. They'll be lost forever. Shut up." She shouted, fear morphing into determination. With every ounce of adrenaline, she charged forward, forcing herself to break free from the sheriff's hold. The creature reared back, confused by her defiance. It roared, shattering the silence into a cacophony that made the very ground quake. Sarah felt the energy around her, heavy and thick, almost sticking to her skin. "Jason! Lily!" She called again, her voice slicing through the chaos. The world around her blurred, each step heavy as she approached her children. The shadows swirled, closing in like a noose, yet she pushed through, every step an act of rebellion. Just as she reached them, the forest shrieked, a raw, primal sound that seared into her soul. In that moment, their faces shifted, fear replaced by something darkly enticing. "Join us, Mommy," they whispered, stretching out their hands in a summons she couldn't ignore. "No!" she cried in horror, realizing they were no longer her children but specters of the forest. Just as everything began to disintegrate around her, she felt a fierce tugging, a sharp relief slicing through the dark. What had she stepped into, and could she ever step out again? The forest was shifting, her reality blurring, as a new voice emerged from the shadows, promising truth or total annihilation. What lay beyond that dark veil, waiting for her decision? The shadows began to recede, pulling back just enough for Sarah to see the twisted forms of her children more clearly. Or were they? The unsettling smile on their faces sent a deep chill running through her body. That haunting gleam in their eyes, that wasn't her Jason and Lily. "Join us," they repeated, voice echoing with an eerie harmony, a cold wind swirling around her. She stumbled back, heart racing, but the ground felt like it was shifting beneath her feet. "Get away from them." The sheriff lunged forward, pushing Sarah toward safety but never taking his eyes off the creature. Still, the weight of the moment anchored her. She had to break free of whatever hold had ensnared them all. Words escaped her throat in a frantic rush. "You're not them. You're not my kids." Yet, doubt began to gnaw. Could it be? The forest was filled with life, a pulsing beat in the deep roots of the trees. She blinked. For just a second, their forms flickered, the children she knew versus the eldritch beings they had become. "Mommy," they cooed again, voices layered like a haunting chant. "Help us find peace." "Peace?" The sheriff took a step closer, grounding himself. This place only knows death. We need to leave. The beast watched, its monstrous eyes fixated on Sarah, as if anticipating her next move. It growled low, an unsettling sound that rumbled like thunder. Suddenly the forest twisted more around them. Roots and vines slithered toward her, eager to entwine her in their grasp once more. Fear jolted through her like a lightning strike. Sarah! The sheriff's voice rang out, filled with urgency. Run! Now! But the pull was strong. Sarah felt rocks underfoot loosening, the deep earth beckoning her closer. She fought against it, mind racing, searching for something to ground her. Outside her, the trees loomed and leaned, branches like fingers, whispering secrets of long-lost victims buried in the wilderness. Jason! Lily! She shouted again, desperation breaking through the spell they cast. Remember our picnics? The stories I told? No more stories, they returned, their laughter morphing from innocent to haunting. We live here now. The forest erupted in chaos, shadows pushing forward, threatening to engulf her completely. Despite the foreboding atmosphere, a glimmer of their former selves shone through. A fleeting emotion, they desired her closeness. Not just the darkness. If that was true, was there a way to save them? The beast snarled, breaking the fragile thread of hope. Its snout hovered near, inhaling deeply, as if trying to savor the air laced with her fear. We'll find you. I promise. She pled, courage igniting within her, shaking the paralysis with fierce determination. Lies, it hissed. All is lost. To her left, the sheriff began moving away from the shadows, frantically signaling. His face was pale, drenched in sweat, eyes wide with horror. Come with me, he urged. I can help you escape. But could she trust him? Could she trust anyone in this wretched place? Jason and Lily leaned closer, smiles widening, eyes gleaming with something sinister. We can keep you safe. Protect you, Mommy. With a desperate lunge, Sarah tore herself away, running toward the sheriff, each step feeling like a battle against invisible chains. Instead of escape, she felt the increasing intensity from the forest, its energy grabbing at her, pulling her back toward darkness. Say yes. The children called after her, their voices shrill and cracking. Say yes, and we can be a family again. The vibrant life of the forest grew more intense, the air electric with its hunger. What now? Sarah had to make the choice, and it wasn't just about her. It was about them, the children she loved held hostage by deceit and darkness. As she turned back one last time, her heart felt like it was being severed. The forest howled in fury as decision loomed closer, suffocating, ready to swallow her whole. And then she heard it, a single whisper, soft and sinister, curling around her mind like smoke. There's no going back. What would she choose? And even if she made a choice, would it matter at all in the overwhelming shadow of the forest? The forest erupted into a cacophony of sound. Screeches tore through the air, a mix of the children's laughter and the beast's growls, blurring into a terrifying symphony. Sarah sprinted, the sheriff just ahead, his figure a vibrating blur against the backdrop of shifting shadows. Trust me. He shouted over his shoulder, the urgency in his voice cutting through the chaos. Was he leading her to safety, or deeper into the embrace of this cursed wood? With each step, the ground seemed to swallow her feet, sticky and hungry like the earth itself was a predator. She could feel the distant weight of her children's eyes, drawing her back as tendrils of mist snaked around her legs, trying to pull her into the ground. The trees groaned, their bark rough and sinister, almost mocking their desperation with rustling whispers. Mommy, the eerie harmony sang again, unmistakably seductive. You can't leave us, no. She screamed, closing her eyes as if to block out their charm. Memories clashed in her mind, laughter during summer picnics, bedtime stories under the stars. But those were the past. This was now. The sheriff stopped suddenly, turning back to face her, a raw panic etched into his features. Don't look at them. Keep running. But why couldn't she? Fear wrapped around her heart like icy fingers. She felt herself faltering, wanting to turn back to Jason and Lily, feeling the ground beneath her soften, urging her to embrace the darkness. A guttural growl erupted from the shadows, shaking trees and rattling Sarah's very bones. Then, a piercing scream, one of the sheriff's cries, cut through the thick air. She turned to see him thrashing against the grasp of roots that had sprung from the earth, coiling around his legs like serpents. Sarah! Help me! His eyes wide, filled with terror, summoned every ounce of her resolve. Get free! She cried, moving closer, but then the forest roared. The shadows thickened, a wave of darkness spilling toward her from every direction. The roots slithered faster, seeking her ankles with insatiable hunger. Say yes. The children's voices echoed, rising in urgency. We can save him together. The decision loomed heavy, a churning mass of fear and nostalgia. If she said yes, she might join them, become part of this twisted sanctuary. But what would that mean for her? Would Jason and Lily ever return to her, or would they be lost to the abyss forever? Sarah! The sheriff strained against the tightening grip, his voice a pitiful shriek. You have to choose. She could practically feel the shadows breathing, sending a wave of dread rolling over her. She swallowed hard, feeling the bitterness of tears mixing with the bile rising in her throat. How could she choose? Desperation clawed at her insides, an unbearable weight crushing her spirit. As she took a step closer to the sheriff, the monster loomed, amorphous and terrifying, clawed limbs reaching for her. No! She screamed, not like this. In that moment, time stilled. She could see the mirage of her children, faces blurred and twisted in the mists of darkness, gaze wrapped in echoes of innocence she could barely recall. But suddenly, a flash of clarity hit her. The only way to free the sheriff was to face the truth, to confront the forest itself. Let him go. She shouted, voice steady, as her heart raced toward confrontation. For the briefest second, silence hung in the air. The beast hesitated, shimmering like a wave, as she held her breath, the forest around her vibrating with anticipation. Then, it surged forward, and everything shattered. Would Sarah's voice break the spell of the forest, or would she find herself swallowed whole by the very shadows that called her name? In the heart of the void, whispers slithered dangerously close, the echoes swarmed, the choice pressed in on her, grinding her will. What if the truth was worse than the darkness? And as she braced for the clash, a single question lingered, a grim reminder of all she cherished. Would the sacrifice be too great? The ground trembled as the forest responded to her defiance. A violent wind whipped through the trees, carrying with it the scent of wet earth and decay. Sarah felt the biting chill wrap around her. The monster swirled in front of her, its form shifting, a mass of shadows bristling with malice. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she stood still, heart hammering, locked in a gaze of determination and despair. Let him go. She shouted again, her voice rising defiantly over the chaos. The moment the words left her lips, the forest seemed to hold its breath. The roots tightened around the sheriff's legs, dragging him down with a grotesque force. He screamed, a sound that cut through the noise, a raw, human plea that resonated with every fiber of her being. Staring into the depths of hell that seethed before her, Sarah felt an unwelcome truth dawn upon her. The creatures behind those voices were not her children anymore, they were shadows of innocence, twisted and tormented. They were waiting for her to join them, to abandon this world, to sink deep into the rot of this cursed green prison. Sarah, please. His cries were sharper now, tinged with despair. I can't, and like that, he was gone. The roots vanished, dragging him into the gaping maw of the underworld. No. Panic surged through her like a wildfire. She stumbled forward, but the darkness snatched at her ankles, and the ground shifted beneath her feet. The beast roared, sound garred, reverberating through her bones. She turned, ready to flee, but the whispers, the sweet, beckoning seduction of her children wrapped around her like smoke. "Mommy," they sang, their voices dripping with a treacle of longing, "come to us, we are here." Her heart ached, a crushing sorrow that threatened to break her apart. The memories were vivid now, every laugh and every joyous cry overlaying the tendrils of darkness. "No!" She crouched, shaking her head furiously. "They're gone. You're not them." The shadows swiped at her, a thousand clawed fingers yearning to pull her into their suffocating embrace. Their laughter twisted into shrieks, echoing through the forest in a mockery of all she held dear. The air grew thick, suffocating. She couldn't breathe as the realization settled in this was not just a choice, it was an illusion. The forest fed on despair, a parasite that thrived on her worst fears. Then, from the periphery, she saw a flicker of light, an opening between the trees shimmering like a lifeline in a sea of darkness. Hope surged through her, propelling her forward. "Fight back!" she shouted, desperation serving a dark purpose. "This is my family. I won't give them up to you." The shadows screeched, recoiling momentarily as if her resolve had stung them. The weight of the dark woods felt lighter, even as terror loomed above her. With every step toward the light, that familiar tug pulling her back weakened. But as she raced forward, the creature screeched anew, and her breath caught in her throat. "Sarah," it whispered with a sound like shattering glass, lingering in the air, so close it felt icy against her skin. "Come play." In that moment of hesitation, she realized that the whispers of the forest had shifted. They forfeited the necessity of persuasion, unveiling raw, malicious intention. Shadows swirled, angry and vicious, hungry to reclaim her. "What are you?" she gasped, fear clawing its way to her heart. The forest answered not with words but with an oppressive, choking silence. A flicker of movement caught her eye, a pair of wide, terrified eyes stared at her from the darkness. "No." They couldn't be. "Step forward, Mommy," they beckoned. The light ahead flickered, as if in response to her panicked heartbeat. Was it a way out, or a trap? Her choice was a fragile thread, swaying dangerously close to unraveling. She had to decide. Would she reach for the light, or the familiar darkness that promised her children back? With that thought hanging heavy in the air, the shadows began to close in around her. What lay beyond the light remained uncertain, a perilous gamble on the depths of sacrifice. But there was no time left to ponder. The choice had come crashing down. Would she take the risk to find the way out, or would the forest engulf her entire being, leaving nothing but echoes in the night? The moment pulsed, alive with dread, as the truth whispered close. Sarah lunged towards the flickering light, heart racing, lungs burning. The shadows writhed around her, clawed hands reaching with insatiable hunger. The whispers turned shrill, each starved voice piercing her ears. "Mommy, stay with us," they called, luring her back, promising warmth where there was only despair. She swallowed hard, trying to drown out the song of shadows with desperation. "No. I'm not leaving you." Her children's faces, once bright and innocent, morphed into twisted replicants, eyes bulging with empty hope, mouths curved into cruel grins. They were facades of her memory, mirages in the darkness, as real as the monsters that hungrily crept. But the light, she could feel its warmth now, urging her through the chaos. Heavy breaths filled her lungs as she sprinted forward. The ground beneath her feet was a living thing, shifting, grasping thorns and roots trying to ensnare her, but she fought against them, pushing through with every ounce of energy she had left. "Come back." The forest howled, rage scraping against her soul. "You belong to us." As if to fulfill its promise, the earth shook violently, and Sarah stumbled, falling hard to her knees. The light flickered and dimmed, her vision narrowing with each passing second. Fragments of the past swarmed her mind, the laughter of her children, their chubby little hands reaching for hers, the softness of their hugs, but she couldn't let that distraction pull her back. With a guttural scream, Sarah clawed at the dirt, propelling herself forward. "I won't lose you again." she cried, though her voice was swallowed by the beast's roar. Shadows whipped around her, filling her thoughts with despair. This was not how it would end. She refused to be consumed by the darkness. The forest wouldn't take her without a fight. Just then, a blinding flash ignited the treetops. Sarah shielded her eyes as the light surged, pulsating like a heartbeat, illuminating the grotesque specters swirling around her. For a heartbeat, hope cut through the despair. Could she transcend this evil? Could she break free into the light? Suddenly, the shadows surged forward, a whirlpool of nightmare dragging her back. She felt their icy fingers clawing at her skin, yanking at her hair, rasping against her throat. Panic clawed at her gut. The bitterness of defeat lingered in the air. "Mommy, please!" The grotesque doppelgangers of her children cried, their voices harmonizing into a shriek that echoed across the forest. "Don't leave us!" Sarah could feel the warmth of the light beginning to slip. Desperation surged anew. She focused on the flickering beacon, an oasis surrounded by torment, and willed herself to rise, ignoring the icy grip of the darkness that pulled relentlessly at her. But just as she gathered her strength, a scream tore through her, a raw, anguished sound that echoed through the hollows, winding around her mind. It was the sheriff, returned, but distorted, lost to the shadows that enveloped him. "Sarah! Help me!" His eyes were wide, frantic, his form twisted like an old tree caught in a storm. With horror snaking through her veins, she could see his body disintegrating into mist, helpless among the shadows. Panic gripped her heart tightly. She had a choice to make, and her heart trembled with the burden. Would she risk everything to save him and join the darkness, or would she leap for freedom and abandon his pleas? Caught between loyalty and survival, the light pulsed again, drawing her closer, but she could still hear the echoes of betrayal. The haunting voices of her children mingled with the sheriff's pleading cries in chaotic harmony. "Step into the light, or you will lose them all," a voice sliced through, sharp and desperate, cutting cleanly through the chaos, the forest's final ultimatum. With trembling hands, she reached for the light, feeling its heat inch closer, but then glanced back. Her heart ached, caught perilously between two worlds. What if it was a lie, a trap to lure her in? An excruciating choice lay before her, pulsing in tandem with the wild rhythm of her racing heart. Nothing was certain. Nothing but the impending darkness. Would she dare to let go of everything she ever knew, or did the forest already possess her soul? The very air thickened around her, thick with dread and treachery. The decision lingered in the balance, suspended and fragile, as the truth twisted into an agonizing knot. The pulse of the light grew stronger, almost inviting, each beat resonating through Sarah's bones. She pushed off the ground, her knees aching, desperately stretching toward freedom. The shadows roared around her, a cacophony of tortured voices filling her ears with sweet-toned lies. "We'll embrace you forever," they promised, seductive and ghastly, each whisper layered with rage and sorrow. "Just step back, it'll be okay," each word twisted like a knife. But Sarah had to remember they didn't care. They wanted her consumed, another soul lost amid their dark banquet. A shiver shot down her spine, but she pressed on, her feet pounding against the relentless earth. The sheriff's screams morphed into raspy gasps, echoing off the trees. "I'm still here. Help!" He was fading, his form flickering like a candle caught in the wind. Her heart pounded in her chest, a battle cry against the shadows threatening to drag him under. Could she save him? Yet, the shadows responded, smart and perilous. Help him? Or flee? Choose. They seemed to relish the chaos of her indecision, their laughter ringing like bells in a graveyard. Her breath came in quick, short bursts. The warmth of the light was almost tangible now. She could feel it, feel that it wanted her, that it was shelter from the brutal storm around her. But what if stepping into it meant sacrificing everything? "Please don't leave me." The sheriff's voice broke through again, and the once sturdy image of a man she trusted turned into a grotesque representation of despair, his face rippling like disturbed water. Sucking in a deep breath, Sarah screamed back, "I'll save you. I'll find you." But whether she meant the sheriff or her children, even she didn't know. As she moved, she felt the thorns digging deeper, tearing at her skin, each step sending shockwaves of pain through her body. Then, something cold gripped her ankle, anchoring her. She stumbled and fell back, landing hard against the dirt. Panic burst through her veins like flames. "No! No!" She screamed as the roots wrapped tight around her legs, pulling her down with an unforgiving embrace. "Mommy, come back. We need you." They chanted, voices echoing in a mockery of love. She could feel the tears prickling at her lids. The dread suffocated her. "Stop it!" she cried, frantically pulling at the unseen bindings. And then, in that moment of despair, she noticed something glimmering beneath the dirt, an object half buried and shimmering subtly, a pendant, catching the light, swirling with colors of the forest. She reached for it. The shadows hissed, the grip on her tightening. As her fingers brushed against the cool surface, a sudden surge of energy coursed through her. A shockwave traveled up her arm, igniting her spirit. The whispers turned into howls, the dark twisting into anger, rage releasing wild and furious into the night. "Give it back!" they screeched, their shrill voices clawing at the edges of her sanity. But she held on to that food of light and reflection tight. It surged, engulfing her in brilliant energy, drowning out the terror. Flickers of hope ignited within her. "You think you can hold me?" she roared defiantly. In that moment, the shadows recoiled. Was this the weapon she had been searching for, a piece of goddess light hidden in the depths of this cursed forest? She clawed at the pendant, feeling the warmth spread through her system. "I will not be consumed!" Sarah shouted, and with every ounce of courage, she stood, tearing free from the roots as if they were mere threads of shadow. She felt the light radiate physically, pushing the shadows back. But suddenly, she turned to face the sheriff, who looked more ghastly than before, still pixelating like a distortion in reality. "What have you done?" he rasped. Was that rage, or was it fear? The shadows twisted, reforming into a monstrous entity in front of her, a creature born from darkness, hungry and relentless, lurking where no light dared to dwell. Sarah's heart plummeted. "No," she whispered, realizing the twisted figure was a reflection of her fear. Her doubts materialized into something monstrous and real. The confrontation was imminent. Would she face the ultimate darkness alongside the sheriff, or could the light protect her? The air grew heavy with dread, with a darkness that craved devastation. As claws of night reached for her once more, Sarah's resolve deepened. Somewhere inside the spectral facade of the sheriff, a flicker of hope remained, but would it be enough to pull them from the brink? With a defiant scream, she lunged forward, the light pulsing brighter, shielding them both from the sinister grasp of the night. This was the moment to face the monster she had become. But as she plunged toward the darkness, was the forest merely waiting to devour the light she radiated, or would it be a beacon to break the curse? The jagged edges of fate were drawing near, ready to unfold their twisted tale. The light surged around Sarah, bright and powerful, pulsing like a heartbeat as she stood against the encroaching darkness. The creature's form twisted and writhed, projecting all the nightmares she had ever experienced. Its foul breath washed over her, chilling her to the bone. But she had accepted her reality, the weight of her children's memories, the sheriff's lingering cries, they fueled a blazing fire inside her. "I will not be consumed by you," she shouted, her voice sharp and resolute, trembling but unyielding. The darkness roared back, a cacophony of rage, but she felt the vibrations. It was weaker, reeling from her defiance. With each beat of the light, she felt a connection spark, a bond woven between her heart and the spirits that lingered, those lost but never truly gone. Pushing ahead, she reached deep within herself, that shimmering pendant radiating warmth, wrapping her in protection. "Jason! Lily! I will find you," she screamed, the words meant for more than just her children. They were a promise that echoed through the ages. The beast twisted, angry, limbs stretching toward her in a grotesque mockery of its former self. It growled, sensing her strength and thrashing violently. Each clash sent shockwaves through the forest, snapping branches and tearing through the thick canopy. With trembling hands, Sarah held the pendant high, feeling the power swell. "This ends now," she declared. The brilliance, a physical manifestation of truth and love, surged outward, forming a barrier that pushed the shadows back. The dark shrieked, retreating like a tide, driven off by the brilliance of hope and maternal love that flowed through the light. As the darkness thinned, glimmers of forgotten memories slipped through the cracks. Laughter filled the air, children's delights, sunlit days. For a moment, she caught a glimpse of her children, standing tall and innocent, smiling in the clearing beyond the shadows. "Mommy!" they shouted, voices woven in harmony that breached the forest's ominous grasp. "Yes. I'm here," she cried, breaking free from the spectral horrors. Each step forward felt like pulling weights from her chest, as hope sliced through despair. Stepping closer, she stumbled into the clearing and beheld them, real and tangible, sunlight breaking through the branches like angels mourning their loss. "Don't let them take you," Jason called, pulling her toward him, Luna's ethereal expression glowing softly. She reached for them, feeling their warmth envelop her. "No, I won't lose you again," she shouted, determination racing through her veins. The shadows hissed, desperately reaching for her ankles, eager to claim their prize. The forest's angry roar surged, but Sarah gripped the pendant tightly, igniting the light within. "You don't have power over us any longer," she shouted boldly. With a final yell, she dispersed the darkness. The trees began to tremble, their roots pulling away, shrinking back from her newfound strength. Shadows curled and dissipated like smoke on the wind, leaving only warmth and safety in their wake. And then, the sheriff appeared, half-formed and shivering. "Leave me, just take your children," he groaned, his voice drenched in hopelessness. But something flickered in his eyes, a glimmer of recognition, a spark of humanity fighting against the shadows. Sarah's heart ached for him, but she couldn't linger. "Come with us," she insisted, reaching toward him. The darkness loomed, waiting for a moment of weakness. But the sheriff's expression shifted, determination melding with his fear as he stepped toward her. I will fight." As the warmth enveloped them, the forest continued to shudder, and she felt the ground tremble beneath her. Together, they fled toward the clearing, Sarah hoisting her children close, feeling their warmth wrap around her like a protective cloak. "Hold hands," she shouted, her voice ringing through the cacophony. They clustered together, fingers entwined, hearts beating in sync. With every ounce of energy, they charged forward, illuminated by the brilliance of hope that pushed back the lurking shadows. The forest shrieked, desperate to reclaim its lost souls, but the light grew stronger, swallowing darkness more ferociously with every breath. They burst through the trees, emerging onto vibrant grass, sunlight spilling like liquid gold across their faces. Every step carried them away from the cursed woods, the ghastly whispers fading into echoes of desperation behind them. As they crossed into safety, Sarah turned, gazing back at the thick canopy and the shadows that slipped into the distance. The tightness in her chest loosened, and she felt an indescribable weight lift. Maplewood lay ahead, bathed in the glow of a new day. "Mommy!" Jason and Lily shouted, breaking the silence, their joy pulling her from the remnants of the turmoil. They twirled, laughing and dancing in the sunlight, so beautifully radiant that all doubt vanished. The sheriff stood alongside, shoulders squared, his haunted expression softening. He had been redeemed, a shared survivor of the horrors they had faced. Sarah reached for him, gratitude swelling in her heart. Just as they began to walk toward home, she realized something significant had changed within her. A newfound strength had blossomed through the darkness, a resilient spirit honed by love and determination. "Let us go home," she whispered, eyes holding unbroken strength. Together, they turned, stepping away from the shadows, embracing the warm dawn and the promise of a brighter future. It was a new beginning, the kind forged through trials, and she was ready to face whatever came next together. You need to subscribe now to this channel to catch all the exclusive stories that await you. This is the moment to show your support and keep up with the twists and turns in every plot. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, it really helps. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.